everybody.
Hi, guys. Well, from Salt Lake City, Utah,
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
the podcast.
I'm Frank.
And I'm Dan.
And coming up today, an interview.
Yeah, we'll be talking to a fellow podcaster.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. We actually haven't even talked to him yet.
Yeah.
This is legit. This is before the interview.
Yeah, you and
We're
I.
not faking here.
Right. We don't know what we're going to say. Right now, who knows what'll happen? Maybe he'll call us out and tell us we're awful.
But then we have to play it because we promised an interview.
I know.
And
Ooh, the excitement.
There's no other time to record.
Do you guys feel the
There's an electricity in the air.
Oh,
That's
it's
what I'm
something. It's something.
That's how I'm going to put it.
How you feeling, Frank? You're welcome back to the show.
Well, thanks. I don't know if you can still hear it in my voice, but I'm still not over this thing. It's been.
You sound pretty good.
It's been 12 or 13 days now.
It's crazy.
Just awful cold.
So our first story today: super viruses are attacking Frank.
Yeah, I thought that was actually going to be a real segue.
They're gonna be genetically engineered.
Yeah, I'm in trouble, guys. It's bad. No, I have slept very little for the last almost 2 weeks because of a cough that just won't go away. So hopefully I'm able to get through the show with my little stash of Halls and you don't hear me smacking too much.
Yeah.
Well,
hopefully we're doing. Hey, there's a big thing before we get into our regular news story.
Yeah.
There's a big announcement today. Do you want to go ahead and spew it to everybody?
Yeah, gay marriage is legal.
That's right. The United States of America, all across these great United States.
The whole country. The Supreme Court.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not surprised.
No.
I'm not surprised. I figured that's where it was going to go, but it was a little bit.
There's a little bit of.
I was anxiously awaiting. So.
Well, this court has done a very good job of trying to avoiding actually making the decision.
Yeah.
Finding a technicality that they can just say, "Oh, we'll just send this back to the states or whatever." Yeah. So, yeah.
Well,
who knew?
But the problem with this court also is that. It's got some legitimate crazy on it that's a little scary in the form of Scalia.
Yeah, that
scary
guy.
Scalia is.
I don't like that guy very much.
Boy, howdy! Thinking about him keeps me up at night.
The thing about
nightmares.
He's the boogeyman.
It's really just his jowls that keep me up at night. But
Scalia's jowls are hiding under your bed. They're gonna come and get you, Frank. The thing that's funny about Scalia is, and what you and I were talking about, all of the dissenters in the case here wrote their own dissents.
Yeah,
they were all very, very grumpy.
Yeah,
about this whole thing.
Oh yeah.
And what you and I were talking about was that there's this. It's so clear. Scalia is the one that makes it the most clear. It's very obvious with Justice Scalia that he can understand. Like, he's a smart man. He knows the law.
Oh, yeah.
But his religion just gets in the way. His religion means more to him than the law does. And so he just is blinded to certain things.
Yeah.
Because his religion is the most important thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's dangerous.
It's terrifying. It's really
really
scary. We can't have another one like him.
No,
that's not allowed.
No, it's like that would be scary.
That's the scary thing going forward is what the next.
Fortunately, his generation will be dying out.
Yeah, but.
And I still think if you get a chance to see Scalia, go and startle the guy. I don't want anyone to attack him, but if you startle him, I still think he's one good boo away from a heart attack, and that would make me very happy.
Oh God! But he's got good medical care. He'd probably survive. There's probably like one of those little briefcase heart shock machines, whatever those are called.
It's a defibrillator.
The defibrillator. There's probably just somebody with one of those walking behind him at all times.
Maybe I'll wait until he's got a big old leg of ham in his hand or something.
Or he just wears one.
He just has
a little button.
Under his robe, there's a defibrillator that just stays attached to his body. I was going to say that. Hang on a second. Okay, what I was going to say... Argle bargle. Or maybe argle bargle's the sound that he makes when his defibrillator goes. Just so that everybody argle bargle. Everybody should just. This ruling is a case of argle bargle. All right, why don't you tell us a story?
Okay. I am actually go to a story in California.
Okay.
That looks at or it's dealing with the fact that the California Assembly, their state lawmaking legislative body, this week passed one of the strictest mandatory vaccination laws in the country.
Okay, wow.
They are joining 30 some odd states that say that that no longer allow parents to have like a personal belief exemption, where it's just some closely held belief.
Right.
There are 30 some odd states that say, no, that's not cool. But they're joining they are now just one of 3 states that have gotten rid of any kind of religious exemption for vaccination.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Because the problem is, of course, California, being having sort of liberal leanings, has, for whatever reason, this anti-vaxxer thing does very well in a lot of these liberal enclaves.
It does.
I really don't understand it.
I don't either.
It's anti-scientific. And it's just bizarro. But anyway, they have decided, of course, as a state now, that the collective health of its population is more important than the leaving it up to people to decide whether or not.
Than the religious beliefs.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is, and if maybe we can fix this, and it would be good for all the religious people. The problem is that the viruses don't seem to care about your religion.
And they don't really listen too well to your praying.
Right. And so, maybe if you can fix that, then we can let you have the religious exemption. Like, if your praying started to work on the viruses.
Yeah.
Or,
If we didn't see a dip in the protection provided, sort of the what is it called? The herd vaccination.
Right.
Where, because there's a certain percentage of the population that cannot be vaccinated due to perhaps an allergy or to something in the vaccination, an actual legitimate thing, or perhaps they have a weakened immune system for some reason.
Right, and there's a small percentage for whom vaccines don't work,
and that's true too.
So that's why the herd immunity is so important.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not. Maybe if Jesus would intervene with the viruses, it would be fine.
Yeah. What was the percentage? I actually said the percentage on the show a couple episodes ago. It was like 91% or 92% of the population, something like that, has to be vaccinated, and for you to actually have that herd immunity.
Yeah, I think it's like 92%.
Somewhere
you can have an 8% thing, and then everything, and then it'll still work.
Yeah.
But if it's over 8, we all die. We're all going to die.
We don't all die.
Oh,
but what ends up happening is, for example, children who are too young to be vaccinated are now all of a sudden way more susceptible.
Right.
One of the cases that happened in that horrible Disneyland thing, where 150 kids contracted measles on one particular day in Disneyland.
Yeah,
that's a nice.
That's not good.
Nice way to spend your time at Disneyland, getting
Well, you don't.
infected.
The thing is that
But,
your time at Disneyland isn't ruined because it doesn't kick
getting
in
infected
until a few
believe me,
days
that
later.
ruined your experience. I don't care. Your memories of Disneyland are totally ruined. But one of the kids was 5 months old and therefore too young to be vaccinated. And now this kid has been dealing with the measles.
Got the measles.
So
Fun. Not fun. All right, I'm going to move on to the state of Texas. We'll go from one huge state in our union to another, where Texas Governor Greg Abbott has named a new chair to their state board of education.
Oh, good.
This one's an interesting pick.
Why is that?
She was a member of the board, Donna Ballrich. The strange thing about this is that she is a Christian extremist homeschooler.
Oh boy. So it's not the Board of Home Education.
It is now.
Oh dear God.
I don't know. It's such a bizarre thing. She's a total ideologue. She wants to adopt. She's one of these people that wants to adopt textbooks that criticize. That criticize. Sorry, I lost my train of thought because Frank is licking a lozenge.
Well, I can't put it in my mouth.
I know.
You'd hear it clicking around.
I know. I just looked over and Frank's like making eye contact with me and licking a lozenge. Don't do that. That's creepy. Licking a lozenge. That'll be the title of this week's episode. Anyway, so yes, this woman, she's she votes. Obviously, she's going to be voting for textbooks that are as anti-science as they can be because she's all about Christianity and obvious and the textbooks that she already voted for have been criticized as wildly distorting American history and the fact is she rejects public education.
Right.
But she's in charge of it. That's not a good thing. That's a bad thing.
It was bad enough just having her on the board. Now she's running the damn thing?
Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's not good.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
well, goodbye, Texas.
Yeah, well,
I think it's time just to let they all Texans like to always remind you that in their state constitution, there's supposedly like this right to secede at any moment,
which of course they don't have. Of course not. But I think
even if it's there, it's not real.
No,
right?
No. But we can let them go.
I think it's time.
I think we can let them go.
It's time.
I think
Texas is.
Can we
sorry, Mackenzie.
We send them along with
Texas seems really broken.
I know we'll lose out on some good things. Texas has some good things, and I it'll be sad to see them go. Austin's fun.
Have? Oh, Austin. Okay.
And I hear San Antonio's okay. But you know what? We'll just have to deal with that. We'll come and visit you with our passports.
Yeah, that's fine.
So off you go.
Stay, and we don't want you involved anymore.
Take Mississippi and Alabama with you, and maybe Oklahoma. We'll give you Oklahoma too. You can be the United States of
Oklahoma can go
of Christian right wingers. Anyway, what do you got?
I'm going to save that one. So there's been this case that we've talked about, a court case dealing with this gay to straight conversion therapy case that I think it was like in. Did it start like in New Jersey?
Yes.
Is that where the first case was? Well, oh yeah, it was New Jersey, of course. Right. So a New Jersey jury has found that claiming that you can cure people of their homosexuality is consumer fraud.
Boom, baby!
Isn't that amazing?
Well, first of all, listeners will recall a few months and months ago that in that same case there was already a ruling that said something to the effect of you can't. It wasn't a ruling; it was the judge just sort of finding that there's a problem with making that claim, considering there's nothing to cure.
Right.
Considering that the American psychological and medical communities have decided that gay isn't a disease.
Well, and
it's just being gay.
And New Jersey is one of the states, actually, like one of the only places, right, in the country that has outlawed licensed therapists from providing conversion therapy to minors, right? There's just a couple other places in the country. Let's see. I think California is one of them, Oregon and Washington, D.C. So it's not surprising that this happened in New Jersey. But isn't it fascinating how quickly things seem to really be shifting? Or have shifted, in this nation.
Yeah.
With regards to gay rights. When I was first coming out in the 90s, it never would have crossed my mind that before I was 40, that the gay marriage would be legal. And
barely before you were 40.
Enough. There's a few months. It's more barely for you.
Well, that's true.
But you probably weren't caring so much about it in the 90s as I was.
Well, I cared, but not that much for sure.
Yeah. Didn't touch you personally.
Right. Yeah, it is amazing. It's remarkable that this has happened. It's a good day to be gay.
It's a good day to be gay.
I think that's great.
Do we want to go into any of the details of like what these therapy sessions look like? This article goes into some of the details.
Tell us a few details, just so that we get a sense of like what it looks like to have someone try to, quote, cure you of your gayness.
In individual and group therapy sessions, clients were asked to undress and touch themselves in the therapist's presence. They were also asked to beat effigies of their mothers with tennis rackets.
Well, okay, and I'm going to go ahead and say that this kind of therapy, just so that our listeners know, falls under the heading of the fuck.
That's abuse. I mean, that's not
just abuse. That's sexual abuse. That's crazy talk.
Yeah,
and
it's
everybody
psychological.
Everybody involved needs to lose any licensing that they have. And they also need to go to jail, probably.
Where in any kind of school for being a therapist, right, were they taught effigy beating,
right,
as a therapeutic,
or naked
exercise?
Self-touching?
Well, no, that one's actually really common. I have social anxiety disorder, and that's actually one of the things.
That's sure. I just went to my therapist for depression. Apparently whacking off in front of him is totally like a cure. I felt a little weird about it, but he says it's really great.
But I strangely feel a little better.
I kind of liked it.
My spirits are lifted. Feel a little less blue.
I definitely got some endorphins. Oh my God. Not acceptable, people.
It depends on whether your counselor's hot or not. If he's hot, then, well, okay. Thank you.
You just kind of want him to join in, though, the whole time. You're just sitting there like...
I'll just look at him. Who cares?
Can you unbutton your shirt just a couple
Just slowly. You don't even have to do it. Just play with the top
just
button.
Act like you're unbuttoning.
Button and rebutton. Oh, yeah.
Oh, good. Can you turn around? Okay.
Believe me, if you're at a gay to straight conversion therapy session... that's going to turn you on.
Oh my God, man!
Like you are so repressed at that point.
Yeah. The sad part is, there's a million sad parts to this, but it's like this. How can this help but fuck you up for a good long while?
Probably half your adult life
about your sexuality. Like you'll never. I mean, it's going to be a fight.
Yeah.
To have just a normal, healthy, happy sex life.
Yeah.
After all of this.
Although, you probably got some interesting kinks.
Yeah.
You probably walked away with some interesting things to do in the bedroom.
Right.
Would be my guess.
How many of these guys now have boyfriends that are like, hey, just will you stand over there while I masturbate? I find it hot. I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right.
I'll do it because I love you.
Will you look judgmental? Here, take this pad and paper. This pad and paper. Just look at me judgmentally like you hate me.
I despise every deep desire I have.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to move on to something much more depressing than all of that, or equally depressing. Anyway, France. I'm just going to touch on this because it feels like we can't really let it go by. Yeah. But there was a terrorist attack in France recently.
Boy, they're having a rough time right now.
They are indeed. A man or a couple of men. It's a little confusing. The story hasn't really sorted itself out yet.
Yeah, still very fresh.
Yeah, they drove a car into a couple of gas containers at apparently an American facility, a gas and chemicals company.
Right,
meaning gases, not petrol. Right, but
like CO2 for beverage.
Yeah,
and oxygen for hospitals and whatnot, right? Like that's the kind of stuff.
That kind of stuff, exactly.
Big canisters of compressed air for whatever purposes.
And also liquified stuff.
Liquid nitrogen and that kind of crap.
Liquid oxygen, I guess, or something.
Oxygen.
I don't know.
These people know what they're doing.
The site belonged to Air Products, which is a U.S.
I would guess some liquid oxygen could make a big
boom.
Big boom. Yeah.
Indeed. And it did make a big boom. And then there's this other part of it, this attack, which is that one of the facility bosses was found decapitated with Arabic writing scrawled in blood on his body.
Okay.
So...
Decapitated.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is the radical Islamists' obsession with cutting people's heads off?
Well, it kills them real good.
Yeah, but it's a thing. Like it's not
totally a thing. Like, I think
you just don't shoot them up. You don't just cut their head off.
It has that extra je ne sais quoi. That's certain special something.
Don't use little French phrases when talking about terrorism in France.
I think it has an extra terror element to it. It's like it's very symbolic.
Is it Quranical?
Maybe. It may. I haven't read the Quran. Maybe it will be.
Huh. Is Quranical a word? Quranic?
No, absolutely not. The Quranic?
My lower Quranic is...
I like a high Quranic every now and then. So François Hollande, the president of the company, has come out and called it a terrorist attack.
François Hollande is the
whatever
president of France.
That's what
you said. The company.
Oh, the country is what word was trying to come out. Okay. Yes. Yeah. He's the president of France.
He's a little bit bigger than just Air Products Incorporated.
I don't know. He's only the president of France.
Okay, on par with him.
Anyway, he's come out and called it a terror attack. Apparently, those suspects have been under surveillance for having possibly been radicalized.
Yeah.
But this feels like it's more personal because the guy worked there.
Ah.
So we got an issue here. We don't know what's here's what it smells like to me. And this is just a guess. This is not.
Oh, I love Dan's guesses. Let's what is it, Dan?
It smells like the guy has been sort of radicalized. They've been training him to kill people, and then he was just like, "Oh, you know who I'd like to kill? My fucking boss." Like, this doesn't seem like it's an actual target. Like, there's no target here, but he was just
knew
like...
that he could get some explosions in, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
so
yeah, he's like...
It has that true je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, I mean, if you do
just smacks of terrorism.
If you do a beheading and some Arabic writing...
and some blowing up.
Yeah. You're going to have the effect that you want.
Yeah.
So why not
let it be personal?
Throw in a guy that you hate in the meantime. They've been making this so general. Their terrorism has been so generalized.
Yeah.
Or it's been specific to someone who's actually said something about Islam, as in the case of Charlie Hebdo.
Right.
Why not just make it personal?
Yeah.
It's hooray for Allah, and also fuck you, Jim. Fucking hate you.
Oh, that's just terrible, Dan.
All right, let's go on to something less depressing.
Well, it's depressing.
Oh, good.
But it's amazing. Bristol Palin, everybody's favorite almost first daughter of the country. Or second daughter.
Second daughter? First daughter of the second...
What do you call the...
The party of the first part, is it? Anyway, go on.
The daughter of Sarah Palin.
Yes, indeed.
Who...
she was the first daughter of Alaska.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. She was during Palin's... while Palin was running for vice president, she had the little baby, right?
Yes.
She already had the baby by the time her mother was running,
right?
But this baby,
born out of wedlock.
That's where I was. Those were the next words out of my mouth, Dan.
You're welcome.
And since then has been on an abstinence-only crusade.
Yes, indeed, she has.
And I would also have to say, probably. You'd have to be pretty self-righteous crusade as well.
She was a figurehead for a thing that she clearly had not followed.
Her highly hypocritical, highly self-righteous crusade for abstinence.
It was the do
education.
as I say, not as I did tour.
Yes. It could also now be the as I do tour.
What?
She is pregnant again. So this girl really believes it. She's all about abstinence.
Yeah.
You know.
She believes it. She just can't quite bring herself to continue to do it.
Which is...
It's amazing.
It's amazing. Because just have the sex.
Right.
Nobody will judge you.
Right.
Your mom will.
Your mom and
a lot of people
will be mad,
you.
but
it's okay, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Just don't go around preaching abstinence only.
Right.
Because first of all,
act like you know that it works.
You're the poster child for it not working.
Right. You're proof that that's the wrong approach.
Yes.
In a nice package, you are the proof that it doesn't work. And you're the one going around touting it.
Yeah.
It reminds one of the do you remember the episode of the what's his name? The comedian
What?
Black comedian used to have a show on Comedy Central. Chappelle, thank you. God,
Dave Chappelle.
Do you remember the sketch that he did where he was a white supremacist because he was blind? Yeah. He was a black guy who was blind and thought he was white, and he was a white supremacist.
Yeah.
It's kind of that same feeling. Like,
yeah, she's definitely blind to something.
Yeah. She's not blind to how hot that one guy was.
Well, the first one, I looked up the second one.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Wasn't she engaged?
Yes.
I thought she was engaged.
Sort of mysteriously called it off not too long ago. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
But, you know, she is asking everyone to please respect her privacy during this time.
AKA, don't ask me any questions right now.
She says, quote, "I do not want any lectures, and I do not want any sympathy." Yeah, I'm sure you don't, sweetheart, but guess what? You deserve a good lecture right now.
Yeah.
And we just gave you the one that you need.
Right.
You need to hear this.
Yeah, the lecture isn't you were bad because you had sex.
No, not at all.
The lecture is shut your fucking mouth hole.
Yes.
You knew what you were doing the whole time.
Yes.
You know that you're a hypocrite.
Yes.
Just accept who you are and shut your fucking face.
Yes.
How old is this little lady?
24.
Oh, jeez. All right.
Good God.
Well, yeah. It's weird. It's almost like sometimes people who are hyper-religious are just not acknowledging the reality of the human condition.
Well, and she also doesn't understand that what could happen with just a little brand change here. She could still be famous.
Yeah.
She could still have her little TLC shows or Lifetime shows, whatever it is that she has.
Right.
She was on season 11 of Dancing with the Stars. I just found that out. Did not know that prior to this article. She could still do all those things.
Maybe this is all a ploy. Maybe she's got a really good PR person who's like, we're going to plan this. You're going to swap teams, but we're going to pick exactly the right moment.
It's now, sweetheart.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's now.
So now this explodes.
This is your chance.
And then just as this explosion starts to die down, that's when you come out with the swap teams thing.
Yep. You come out as a lesbian.
That one's going to be a tougher sell considering her history that we know about.
Yeah, I know.
But no, you come out as now I'm pro non-abstinence only sex education.
Yeah.
And I'm liberal.
Yeah.
And I'm not Christian anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to say I don't want her on our team.
No, you're right.
She needs to be a Jew. She needs to convert to Judaism. She's going to be a Reformed Jew from now on. That's where I'm going with this.
That would piss her mom off.
It would be great.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to switch it up now. In the great state of Missouri, or Missouri, depending on what part of the state you're from.
How you decide to pronounce I's.
Right, exactly. There has been a law. There's a law, an abortion law, which requires women to wait 72 hours and review a, quote, informed consent booklet before they can have an abortion. There are also very few abortion clinics left because they've tightened the rules so tightly that it's really hard to be an abortion clinic and follow all of their goddamn rules.
Yeah. Okay.
So there are women all over the state who it's a long drive before they can get to a clinic, which means if they have to wait 72 hours, they got to drive 4 hours or 6 hours or whatever to get to the place, and then they got to wait 2 days or 3 days. How many days is 72 hours?
That would be 3.
3 days.
Yeah.
So obviously this is very onerous for a woman who has to deal with this.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. We hinted that maybe this would happen. It is happening. The Satanic Temple is suing.
Oh,
they have filed a lawsuit.
Okay. All right. Excellent.
I'm
sure it's very clever.
Their member, Mary Doe. Is that really her last name?
Unfortunately, her sister already got Jane.
Right, exactly. If your last name is Doe, you're just doomed to forever having people skeptical if you're saying your true name. That's just all there is to it.
Is Doe actually a real last name?
I don't know.
I thought that's why it was that.
Because it's not a real last name?
Because it was a name that it was a word that just had never been a last name.
Okay. Anyway. This woman identified as Mary Doe sought an abortion, was required to do the 72-hour thing. However, the Satanic Temple has made it a tenet of their religion that they have the right to an immediate abortion without having to go through all of that stuff. And they're using the Hobby Lobby ruling
my God.
to claim, which allowed private corporations to opt out of laws that violate their owners' religious beliefs. So now they're trying to use that to fight these really stupid things.
Wow. Well done.
She brought a letter. I'll remind people. She brought a letter to her abortion, to her attempt at an abortion that says, "I choose to have an abortion today, now, and without further review of the booklet."
Wow.
Which they did not honor. So now she's suing.
Fantastic.
So that's good.
Well done.
Anyway, there you go. Hey, if you kids have anything you'd like to say about any of the stories we've just presented to you, there are ways that you can contact us. You can write to us at podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or you can leave us a voicemail. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Yeah. Go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist.
Also on Facebook, you can search for the TGIA, Members Only Lounge.
Yeah.
You search for it, then you request to join it. And then because you're a real listener, you'll get let in.
I stalk your page and get a little creepy about it.
See, the more creepy you make it sound, Dan.
Oh, they love it. They love it. I know you love it.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. Of course, it's a Pat Robertson break. Yet another good one this week.
We keep listening to other people's audio just to put somebody else on there, but nobody gives it to us. It's quite the way Patty Boy does.
A family that recently moved into my neighborhood claims to be Wiccan. I've heard from my son some of the things their daughter told him, and it really kind of frightened me to hear about spells and other concepts I've never heard of in the Bible. Should I let my son be friends with their daughter? Should I try to be friends with the family? I'm so unsure. What is the Christian thing to do, Pat?
A thing like that, you look at the Old Testament and it says you don't intermarry with them. You don't give your sons to their daughters or their daughters to your sons. Their sons, they'll corrupt you. And, these people, they say as well as these are white witches versus black witches. There's no such thing as good witch. I mean, it's all demonic, and you don't want your children involved in that stuff. I mean, they have power. Don't think it's not real. It is real, but it's real wrong. And I would just say you're not permitted to go to their houses or have anything to do with them. I mean, they may seem to be very pleasant people and all that, but they'll destroy your children, and you have to protect them.
They might be nice people, Dan.
But are you a good witch or a bad witch?
Oh, he hates that part of that movie.
There are no good witches. They're all bad. They're all bad. Won't someone save the children? And maybe the Tin Man?
Oh, my God. These poor Wiccans.
Oh, my goodness. It's so fucking funny.
Harmless.
The Wiccan Witch
Absolutely
of the West.
harmless. What are they going to do?
Well, here's the thing. I think
Except
if you're Pat Robertson, if you're someone like Pat Robertson, you have this thing in your head. You somehow know deep down inside that if you deny that they have any power,
yes,
then you're kind of on the road to denying that you have any power.
Yep, absolutely.
Like suddenly the magic disappears out of what you do. And you can't have that.
It always does help to have sort of a good, solid adversary.
Yeah.
Somebody that you can point at. They're evil. They're bad.
Yeah.
And you know what? This is a really good way for you to scare your children.
Yeah.
The
Wiccans are coming. It's also a great way to make sure that you isolate and treat badly your neighbors.
Yeah. This should be, yeah.
So that's good.
That's the Christian thing to do.
It's the Christian thing to do. It really is. Of course it is.
We had some crazy Christians on the block when I was a kid.
I'm sure.
The kids couldn't watch the Smurfs.
Were they allowed to play with the Mormon kid?
We didn't play with them. They didn't really come out that much.
Oh.
I think some of my friends that I played with a lot that were in the neighborhood, they had played with them. Uh-huh. But they didn't really like playing with them because they were just kind of strange kids.
Oh.
And so I always just stayed away from them.
Okay.
But
well, there you go.
Not for any real reason. Although we were all the Mormon kids that were playing together.
Yeah.
In our Northern Californian.
Mormons tend to stick together, especially
even if there's enough of them. And there were just enough.
Right.
Although we all had non-Mormon friends too, but to a certain extent.
Yeah. There you go. Mormons in Utah can be dicks about it. Not let their kids play with non-Mormon.
Very isolating, yeah.
I was never that way. Like, my parents weren't like that, but
you grew up on the East Bench in Salt Lake City, so
yeah, it was a little
different.
Liberal Mormon. If you get into the suburbs, and it's just like, no, don't play with the. You can play with any kids that you know from church.
Well, you guys touched upon this, and the more Mormons there are, the more strict they get about who you can play with.
Yeah, and so exactly.
It
Rachel
can even turn into the Mormon kid you can't play with.
Right, the Mormon
dad drinks coffee.
Yeah, exactly. The Mormon kid whose one of their parents might not be as Mormon as we want. Don't you know what? Let's just knock them out too. They're out. They're out. You can't play with them either. Oh boy. Did we have a voicemail that we were going to listen to?
Yeah, we have one voicemail.
Okay.
Let's just play it.
Hey, this is John. Just thinking about the idea of converting people to atheism, anti-theism, and humanism in general. You know, I'm kind of feeling the same way, I think, about proselytizing, such a thing as essentially saying anything that you've got sucks, and what I've got is awesome. Therefore, well, you suck as well. That's the kind of feeling that I get. Got a family situation where the in-laws are Mormon a lot, and that does mean some difficulties. But throughout the years, just in basic conversations, dealing with him with respect and taking whatever he says at face value as this is something he believes, this is something he cares about. With time, I'm noticing that some of my own speech quirks have been popping up. Little caveats in his language. Well, I don't know about but, or maybe, or possibly, or I'm thinking maybe. Those kind of little self-doubting turns of phrase weren't in his vocabulary before. And now they are. So some of the hoodoo coming out of his mouth isn't as fervent. It isn't as active. He still thinks the end of times are here. But we're working on that. Thanks, guys. It's a good show. I enjoy it.
All right, thanks, John.
Yeah, it is nice when it starts to chill and you know when somebody's idea about what you know when somebody finally realizes, oh, there's someone in the room who doesn't actually believe this, so I should say that I should use words like "in my opinion" and
yeah, when they start to respect you,
yeah,
and the fact that you believe differently,
right?
Yeah.
We have so thanks for the call. We've got one PayPal donor.
Ooh, and a Joyride donor.
Okay, so thank you to Lori from PayPal who did a one-time donation. Really appreciate that.
And we have a new donor on Joyride. Thank you, David.
Awesome. Here's the thing about Joyride. We are really close to achieving our next goal, and we've kind of lost a lot of steam on this thing.
Yeah.
But we're right there.
We're really
so close.
Super duper close.
So if you guys, I mean, just push us over that edge. Go to the Joyride. Go to thankgodimatheist.com. Click on the Joyride button. We're so goddamn close to being able to make some new improvements to the show. It would be really, really, really nice. So thanks for that.
Indeed.
So now we got an interview coming up.
Interview.
So let's just kick it over to that. So I'm here with David Michael, a man so nice they named him twice with two first names. Hi, David.
Hi, Dan.
And David is the progenitor, the founder, the doer of the podcast My Book of Mormon. Is that so?
Yeah.
Would you agree
I would go with
that?
host, but sure, we can use all those other fancy names. I like it.
So you've been doing this for a while. Tell our listeners what your podcast is about.
Well, I'm just somebody that knew absolutely nothing about Mormonism at all outside of what South Park taught me, and, which was quite a bit, actually.
Which is actually more than you think it is.
And so, yeah, I just decided I would read the Book of Mormon, see what it had to say, and record myself doing it, and just kind of anything that popped in my head as I was reading it, just say it out loud. So,
nice.
Yeah, didn't know if anyone would like it, how it would go, but it turned out that, I don't know, enough people like it that kept me going. So, yeah.
It's an interesting way. I mean, if you've got to read a horrible book, you might as well.
Not that bad.
Okay.
I think you just have a lot of baggage associated with it.
Okay.
There was a lot of fun parts.
You're defending the book. I like it.
Well, there's some fun parts.
Okay.
There's a whole Kill Bill scene where a guy just goes and starts chopping people's arms off. It's fun.
That's
fun.
That's true. That's true.
You're forgetting all the fun stuff, Dan.
The arms thing was always it's so gruesome. But as a kid, I remember like hearing about all the arms getting cut off, and I was like, oh, awesome.
Well, David in the Bible did it with foreskin, so I think it's probably better.
Yeah. It's arms. Just cut off the arms. They make good trophies. You can just sort of hang them around your house or
you
whatever.
had the choice.
Sure.
If you had to lose one. Anyway.
Yeah, foreskins don't make a good trophy at all. No. So how have you found the process? You're all the way through the Book of Mormon. You're into other the other books in the Mormon canon at this point.
Right. Yep. Finished the book.
Talk to us about your experience of like going through that, and also your listeners' experience of having you do that.
Yeah, so I probably would have quit after, I don't know, I wouldn't have made it very long if I didn't have the listeners reacting the way they did. So I originally did it. I thought it was a show that atheists that were interested in Mormonism might find interesting, because it is something that, at least in my world, I'm from Chicago, it's just not something we are exposed to.
Right.
And so I'd heard rumors. I actually thought that they were urban legends, like the magic underwear, and like stuff like that. You're just like, well, that's probably bullshit.
Right.
People aren't really, turns out. Anyway, it's a real thing. But so that's what I kind of thought the demographic would be that would listen to it. But it turns out the show really picked up when the ex-Mormon community that I didn't really know existed got a hold of it. And it just, among the social media within that world, it really picked up steam, and lots of people started reaching out saying how therapeutic the show was and how much it was helping them. And I was like, uh-oh. I was just trying to make a few laughs, and now it's turned into something else. So
now you have to do it.
Yeah.
You're locked in.
So many people said that, like, they'd left the church, or they had accepted that it wasn't true, but they were blaming themselves for that. Like that they were holding on to this guilt that they didn't have enough faith.
That's
right?
so fucking Mormon.
Yeah.
That's like exactly how you do. The perfect Mormon way to not be Mormon anymore is to blame yourself like you did some shit wrong.
Yeah. So then I guess listening to me read this book, and even other people thought that the one thing they couldn't get past is how any human being could have written this wonderful book. And it's just because all their whole life they're told that, right? That it's true, because how could anyone write this if it wasn't God? And so then just to hear someone that has no exposure to it, doesn't have anyone over their shoulder telling them what they're supposed to believe when they read it, just read it for what it's worth. It's not very impressive at all, really.
No, it's not a great piece of literature. I mean, it's no Game of Thrones.
No. Harry Potter's better. Anyway, any other fantasy book, infinitely better.
Sure. Although that arms thing was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a small bit. It was a small bit. But then the problem is it lost quite a bit of creative juice the longer it went.
Oh.
So, yeah, you had, like, early on, you had these battle scenes that were epic. Yeah. I mean, there was a scene where, like, so many people were dying that they created, like, a land bridge across a river with bodies, and that's how they got across. It was like, wow, this is really exciting stuff. And then later in the book, it was like, they had a great battle, the likes of which the earth has never seen.
Hey.
Done. Yeah.
That's not good writing.
No. And then they also had and God came and told him many things that were so great they could never be spoken. You're like, that's just cheating.
That doesn't count. You've run out of steam, sir.
Definitely.
Sir, you have run out of steam. So, I should mention to my listeners, they're going to be confused because Frank's not talking.
Oh, touche.
Because Frank's not here. So Frank didn't make it for this part of the show. Don't be confused. He'll be back at the end of the show. Anyway, sorry. Go on with what you're saying.
Or we just have him tied up in their corner, not letting him talk.
Don't tell them. Then they'll know.
Okay.
Frank's fine.
Frank's fine.
He's not tied up in the corner at all.
He's just wonderful.
Right. We'll feed him later.
Well, so that changed the, I guess, dynamic of the show. And kind of really motivated me to keep going with it. It's really evolved into quite a few different avenues I never expected. So, for example, there's a drinking game in the show.
Excellent.
It was a listener created game where every time the book says it came to pass or yay, you have to take a drink.
Holy shit.
Happens a lot.
That's dangerous.
It is.
That's alcohol poisoning.
It can be. So I recommend anyone's going to listen to the show, look at the show notes first, because I do have a guide that says how many beers it will take to get through this episode. Yeah. The record, by the way, was 17.
Holy crap.
Yeah, that one.
You guys have to understand, like, Joseph Smith, let's just assume that Joseph Smith was lying when he said that this is all actually a record of a people that lived on the American continent.
I'm going to go out on a ledge and say that's a safe assumption.
Yeah. So assuming that, then Joseph Smith himself wrote this thing in the 1800s in language that he stole from the King James Bible. So he's really working hard to get that King Jamesy feel. And in doing so, he uses the phrase, it came to pass 100 million times.
A lot, yeah.
More, like way more than the Bible uses that phrase.
Now, it's had a bad effect, apparently, on a lot of people that are still kind of in the church.
Oh.
So now they go to their church on Sunday, and the bishop's up there reading, and they have it's all they're worth to not yell drink every time they hear it came to pass.
I like that. That's good. They should drink. but they'll just have to drink a little cup of sacrament water.
It does seem to be, even people that are out of the church, that seems to be the last thing you really got to get them. Like, get them to drink alcohol.
Yeah.
That's not an easy step to get people to take, it seems.
I'll tell you, man, I didn't do it. For one thing, if you make it all the way into your like mid-20s/30s or whatever without drinking, you know, as a teenager, if you start to drink as a teenager or as an early 20s something, like you have strong motivation to try to drink.
Sure.
Everybody's drinking, everybody's trying this thing. So like you get over the fact that it all tastes like shit and nobody likes alcohol the first time they try it. You have to acquire that taste.
I suppose.
There are those who would argue with me on that point. Yeah. I know I didn't though. So I didn't drink long after I left the church.
Yeah.
Just
that
because
seems to be common though.
It's gross and stuff.
I mean, I guess I can relate because I was in the military.
Uh-huh.
So, and even when I was in college, I was still in the National Guard like, to help the tuition stuff. And so, yeah, everybody else is out smoking weed, and it just wasn't an option for me. And so by the time it was an option, it was like, well, that's not really something everyone's just doing anymore. You know what I mean?
Right,
so
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
when do you just jump into that world?
Yeah, exactly.
I get it.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I can see that. I can see a Mormon's just, I don't know how to drink, and you don't know what you're doing too. That's the other thing is
True.
like, everybody else is a decade into their drinking.
Sure.
And you're so far behind. Why do I feel bad in the morning?
We need to write a book for them, I think. Because
like
if you start with like Moscato or something that's like white grape juice, and then work your way up, and
Sure.
like the final chapter is tequila shots.
Right,
You know what I mean?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, you don't want to start, and I did it stupidly. I didn't do any research about how to do this. You're absolutely right. Frank and I have actually talked about doing it, like how to drink once you've done with Mormonism, like how to be an adult, and again, series or whatever. But yeah, because when I started to drink, when I tried it the first thing I did was go out with my other friend who didn't know how to drink and buy a fifth of Jack Daniels and just drown that thing between the two of us. And then we were very, very sick.
I mean, that's like kind of the fast track, you
Right,
know?
yeah.
That's another option.
I just wanted to know what it felt like to be drunk. So I was
And
like,
you found out.
Give me the shortest line between me and Blotto. Okay, we'll do this. Blah, blah, blah. And I was vomiting for a year and a half.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not good.
Probably not.
Anyway, you're in Salt Lake City.
I am.
And today you got to visit the Mormon Temple.
I did.
What did you think?
It was very exciting. So you got to understand, I've very intentionally not wanted to know what's coming up.
Oh, cool.
Throughout the whole book. So it was always, and the listeners of the show have been fantastic about not telling me, right? Even like all the paintings we saw today, these, were they Freiburg or Freiburg? Yeah. So like when I would release an episode, there'd be like the people were in a race to see who could like post that first on the website. Like, oh, we finally get to show you this painting,
Oh, that's awesome.
And, so they're really good about that. So a lot of this stuff, I've been reading this book just as a literary work.
Sure.
Without any of the other stuff around it. So now that I've finished reading the book, I kind of feel open to like explore what is Mormonism. And yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, you got the crash course today.
And it's also fun because the only understanding I have is the Book of Mormon. And you know this. The Book of Mormon has very little to do with being a Mormon.
Right.
Actually, I would say nothing to do with it,
Right.
really. And so there's things in the book when we were laughing today about there was this dream about this horrible, great and spacious building, and that's where all the sinners are.
Right.
So we walk into this grand assembly hall, and the tour guide immediately is bragging that this is the largest assembly hall in the world.
Right.
It's not a sports arena, and you can fit 2 747s in here, and it's like, so it's great and spacious.
Right.
It's great.
What you're saying to me is that you have a great and spacious building.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, because the great and spacious building in Mormon lore in the Book of Mormon represents the pride of mankind, and it's evil. All the bad people are there. That's where they go.
Well, wealth in general is pretty demonized in the Book of Mormon quite a bit.
Right.
Yeah. And so then you're just like surrounded by all this opulence.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, no, it's okay. God gave us this.
Yeah, you get the sense that Joe Smith didn't really anticipate how big his shit was going to get.
Yeah. Yeah, he did not realize where it would go. I do wonder, though, if you went back and said to him, this is what's going to happen, would he be okay with that? I don't know.
Yeah, I frankly, I'm guessing, like, just
I never would have guessed in his wildest imaginations that there'd be millions of people and a state, or actually several states, that are wrapped around the shit he came up with. There's no way he could have envisioned that.
No. But I mean, would he be surprised? Probably, but an ego big enough to, like, start a religion.
That is true.
There's like a megalomania there that
stealing people's wives and children and making them your wives. Yeah, okay.
He may. I mean, that kind of a guy is probably like, yeah, that sounds about right. That's what I did.
Right.
I figured. Pretty sure that was going to happen for sure. So yeah, we went and saw the Space Jesus.
We did see Space Jesus.
It's just a
very
weird place.
So it's a big statue of Jesus, and it's like in kind of a round room, like a dome ceiling.
Yeah.
And it's just space painted all around him with these random planets, one of them being Earth.
Yes.
And these other planets you can't tell. That all seem to just be wandering around. And then rain clouds in space.
Yes, clouds in space. I don't know if you guys know that is the thing. But basically cumulonimbus clouds just chilling in space. And
there's no plaque in there explaining why this is there.
No.
It just is.
You just got to accept it for what it is.
But there's a lot of stuff like that. Like yesterday, I went and saw the what's the gardens? Gilgal Gardens.
Gilgal Gardens.
And there's a Sphinx statue with the face of Joseph Smith on it, which is one of the creepiest things I've ever seen.
And amazing. And awesome.
Sure. There was some weird stuff in that little garden, though.
Right. That's not an official church place. That like the church never owned that. That was some Mormon sculptor who was a little bit off his nut, I think, and just did it. And now the city owns it and takes care of it.
Oh, so the church still doesn't finance it at all?
No.
Man,
isn't that amazing?
It's weird.
If you're in the Salt Lake, if you're in Utah and you visit Salt Lake, you need to find Gilgal Gardens. It's pretty wild.
Mm-hmm. Quite.
So this journey that you've been on, you've done the thing that most Mormons haven't done. Most Christians haven't read the Bible, and most Mormons haven't read the entire Book of Mormon cover to cover.
True.
What do you think? Are you a Mormon now? Did they get you?
It didn't work. So there's a thing at the very end.
Right.
Everyone calls it the Moroni Promise. I call it the Moroni Challenge because it seemed more like a challenge.
Right.
You're basically supposed to pray, and if you really ask well, and God will give you a sign that it's true. And I didn't get the sign. I tried.
Oh.
No sign.
You did it wrong.
I did. So apparently there's a lot of Mormon listeners, like actual believing Mormons listen to the show. And I knew of some of them. There's a few. One of them is actually a donor to the show.
Wow.
Who just says, I think it's great that somebody that's not one of us wants to read it. And so I want to support you. And that still blows my mind.
That seems like he's making a mistake. You don't understand what's happening right now.
Maybe he's not listening. Maybe he just heard about it and he's got money and he's sharing it.
That's
Maybe
amazing.
That's what's happening. But after that episode at the very end, I got a ton of emails from all these Mormons. Wow. And I was like, you've been here the whole time? Where have you been? Right?
Right.
So they've been just kind of like lurking in the background listening. And I think a lot of them were disappointed because from what I understand, Mormons are raised to, preparing for their mission, right? This missionary trip.
Yeah.
And on that mission trip, the goal is to get people to read the Book of Mormon. If you accomplish that, God will take care of the rest.
Yeah.
So that's what they're told.
Yeah.
So several people actually said to me that they were so excited when they heard about this project because it's like, we get to hear someone convert. I mean, there was no doubt in their mind it would happen.
Right.
That's what they've been told their whole life.
Sure.
And so when it got to the end and it didn't faze me, then they were kind of like, well, something you didn't. Yeah.
You weren't sincere. You were broken.
Well, I was told because I didn't believe it was true, I didn't get a sign. So you have to believe something's true to ask for a sign that it's true.
Right.
That doesn't add up at
right.
all.
Well, I mean, all Christians kind of have that take, right? The take is you start with faith and then it gets confirmed for you.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's like you have to build in the cognitive bias first.
Yeah, because it's impossible to get there otherwise.
Right.
You can't.
It's a tricky logical conundrum,
yeah.
A little bit. It's a chicken and egg proposition. Or rather, they say, here, we're going to give you this chicken, and you have to make sure that you believe in the chicken. I don't know. It's all very wrong.
There's no way to describe it.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, so that I think people were disappointed. But no, I'm afraid it didn't work. Didn't take.
Oh.
Yeah. No.
You were telling
I
me...
don't think the book was written in a way to be read cover to cover. So I read it like a book.
Right.
You start at page 1, you go to the end.
Sure.
And I don't think any Mormons read it that way.
No,
Like,
I mean, every now and
more-
then they challenge you to... The Mormons have challenged their parishioners.
But it's not well written in that sense.
No.
Like, even the very beginning of it starts out with some of the most batshit stuff. So
Right.
it's like, that shouldn't be in the beginning.
Right.
Like, maybe make that an appendix. You know,
Why don't you
open up with that?
Can you give an example of something that you thought was...
Well, one of the first things you see is, like, I mean, one of the first pages is these testimonies of these witnesses, right? So it's like, before you even start reading it, you have these letters that some 3 people signed that said, yeah, we pinky swear this is true.
Right.
Like, really, it happened.
Well, and what they're swearing to the truthfulness of is not the book itself, but the story, the origin story behind the book.
Right.
And will you briefly just sort of go into where this book ostensibly came from?
Yeah,
according to
all right,
Joseph Smith?
sure. So I'll do it pretty quick. So we had these people in Jerusalem, and this one family moved to America, and then because they had to, Promised Land.
We're not talking about like 1962.
Oh no, this is about 600 BC.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Somehow
So
they managed to make it across the ocean.
I just built some boats. Get over it. Come on. Noah could do it. It was even earlier. It's fine. So built some boats, came over. I was skipping a ton. Not even talking about the magic brass ball, which was great.
Right.
But then, so they get here, and then they basically start this very large, massive civilization. Eventually, they fracture in 2 different sides, and there's millions of them.
Right.
And they're very sophisticated, very advanced. They have all kinds of metalworking. They're mining, all kinds of things that somehow...
Chariots. They have horses and chariots and stuff.
Amazing. Animals that weren't here were here. God really hooked them. He blessed the shit out of them.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Right.
That happened. So all that happens. But eventually, they just keep fighting, and they all die out. And then, and I'm skipping so much here.
Yeah.
This is a very high level. But the good news is that they cataloged it all on these golden plates and went and buried them. Had to keep them safe.
Yes.
So the guy that buried him comes back, I don't know, 2,000 years later, about 1,500 years later, to Joseph Smith, and he's like, hey, I buried some plates.
In upstate New York.
Yeah. It turns out it's in your backyard.
Right.
You got a good farm. It's right out here. So he digs them up, and he gives them these magic rocks. If he looks through them, he can translate it, and that's what the Book of Mormon is. So the very beginning of the book is these guys saying, yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
True story. Yeah.
Joseph Smith was digging around in his woods and found golden plates upon which were written this record of this ancient peoples.
Yes, of curious workmanship, I think they said. Yeah. So
Yes.
basically, and if you really read them the way I did and just like, what does this thing say? It actually says, yeah, we saw some weird shit. Like, that's what the letters say.
Right.
These guys. They're just
Right.
basically, yeah. So then that happens. Then Joseph Smith tells the story of his testimony of how this angel floated down, turned him on. I don't know if you ever got that. He went on and on about how his robe was open and he had this magnificent bosom. It was pretty hot. Anyway.
Nice. It's
so,
like Ricardo Montalban in Star Trek
good
2.
stuff. So then he shows him where the plate. So this is like how the book opens. We have, like, these angels floating around, and we have plates being dug up. It's just like, oh my God, this is how you start? No, this is about, and it's like every other book, like the Bible or the Quran or any other. They don't need an intro.
No.
They just start with their story. So just start with your story. So that's my advice to the Mormon Church. Just take that whole beginning out. Like, it doesn't need to be there.
Or put it at the end.
Yeah. Or an appendix. Sure.
Yeah.
Anything. You got your glossary, your index, and where'd this come from.
I think you were supposed to skip that stuff and go straight into the...
Well, that's it. But it didn't say that.
No.
Give me instruction.
No. Well, you should have intuited that.
That was another thing. Everyone always told me, you're pronouncing all the names wrong. And there's a pronunciation guide at the end. And I'm like, I swore I'd read it cover to cover. I can't jump ahead to the end, so I'll do my best.
There you go.
So, yeah, I butchered quite a few of the names. What was the one you said? There's a guy, Abinadi.
Abinadi. And there's a road in Salt Lake City that's Abinadi Road, but everybody calls it Abenadi because nobody knows. Because, yeah, it's not all Mormons here in Utah.
Right.
So
I probably said Abenadi at one point. Yeah.
that's what it looks like. Has it been a good experience for you?
Well, I mean, if I was doing it alone, just reading the Book of Mormon, I would probably say no. I didn't get anything out of it.
Right.
It wasn't a value-added read. Right. Well, what's been good is the community that formed around the show.
Excellent.
So all of the different, ex-Mormons and even doubting Mormons and, my God, apparently even real Mormons that just kind of coalesced around the show. And we've been able to do a lot of good stuff with that. So we've started not a foundation, it's a scholarship called the Taylor Scholarship, which pays for people that are in need of therapy to deal with the faith crisis that they're in.
That's amazing.
Especially with like just some of the stuff you get, like the emails people send are just heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
And I don't know of another, I mean, I'm sure they exist, but it's one of these, what's different about Mormonism and like other religions in the U.S. is that it's so insulated, like especially out here. It's not like, so I grew up in a very evangelical Christian home, and it was Christian school and church 3 times a week and all that. But I could still go down the block and play with the heathen kids, right? I mean, it's, you know, that's where everyone else can do that. You can expose yourself. But people here, there is no go down the block. You go down the block and there's more Mormons, right? And so the sense of how trapped people feel within it and feeling like they can't get out. And then there's people with sexual identity issues and they don't know how to deal with that. And so I wanted to do something more, and so we started that. It's been going amazingly well. The amount that people contribute to that to help strangers, and in a sense, and they'll never even know a lot of times even who you're helping or the result, because, you know, the doctor-patient confidentiality, so they don't even know, and they're still willing to give. And so we've raised thousands and thousands for that. That's amazing. And we just partnered with the Open Stories Foundation. Okay. And so that's they have a network across the country. You can go to I think it's OpenStoriesFoundation.org. I might be wrong about the website. Google that, Open Stories Foundation. You'll find it. And yeah, by state, it shows every therapist that they've kind of vetted that can deal with these issues in a good way. That's great. And so, and even if you need it, and you even find someone you want but you can't afford it, that's what this scholarship's for. So it's been pretty awesome. And then also I set up this I was just too busy to try and help everybody. Sure. So we set up this support network amongst listeners. So one person needed a friend, and I could just pair him up with somebody else. And yeah, it's been really cool watching how much people are willing to help each other, especially if it's like, I've been there and I know what you're going through. Because that was another thing I had. I couldn't really relate. Sure. I don't know what it means to be trapped in a Mormon culture. I've never been there. Right. And so being able to give people that kind of support has been helpful too. So in that sense, it's been one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life. Oh, that's great. And, but no, the book itself was just the byproduct. I mean, that was the necessary evil. Had to get through it to create this good thing. That's awesome. But it's been a lot of fun. And it's also gotten me drunk quite a few times when I played along with the drinking game.
Boom. See? It's a win-win for everybody. Yeah. Nobody loses in this game. Well, David, thank you so much for coming on. Not a problem. We really wish you the best of luck with it.
If anyone wants to hear the show, yes, you will go to mybookofmormonpodcast.com, and pretty much everything you need to know is there. If you can't figure it out from there, you shouldn't be on the internet.
Or you're also on all of the basic.
Yep. Yeah. iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, all that stuff too. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, congratulations and our best to you. For
and let me just say, I love your show, and I'm not just saying that because I'm on it. I've been on a lot of shows. I think you and Frank are awesome, and keep doing what you're doing. Never stop. You've kind of been my white whale, quite frankly. I've always wondered, am I ever going to get to be on that awesome show? Well, finally did it. So now I'm just going to quit podcasting.
Yeah, you're done. It's done. You're done. You've achieved the pinnacle.
It's nothing greater, because you almost never have guests.
That's true.
So I had to fly out here to get this interview.
Yeah. So let that be a lesson to the rest of you. Get out here. If you're anyway. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate you having you.
Thank you.
Well, if you'd like to chime in on anything that you've heard today on the show, you can do so.
Yeah.
Dan, how do they write to us?
Get pen and paper and scan it.
We should get a P.O. box or a fax machine, which is what it sounds like you were about to.
Well, I was going to say just email it to us. Write a letter in longhand and then scan it and email it to podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or you could skip all of that and just leave us a voicemail message.
Yeah, that'd be great.
The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Right. Go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist.
And also on Facebook, you can search for the TGIA Members Only Lounge. Request to join, and Dan will let you in.
Yep. It's a good conversation over there. Hey, thanks, Mackenzie, for taking care of that Facebook page for us. It's always a pleasure on there.
And thank you to the Red Rock Hot Club for letting us use their music.
And thank you, dearest of listeners, that's you personally. I'm talking to you right now for joining us today.
Bye-bye.